Andy Miley of the FantasyAlarm.com joined me on the Sports Buffet podcast. He specializes in Dynasty and rookies. Talk to me about that topic, and we talked a little bit more about one of the outstanding fantasy football guys in the business, Andy Miley, on the Sports Buffet podcast. Andy Miley writes for the FantasyAlarm.com, focusing more on the Dynasty aspect of fantasy football and the rookies, and we talked to him now here on the Sports Buffet. Talked to him last year. And Andy, as we get closer to the actual drafts that people are doing, I guess if you're a Dynasty player, it's not really you start to focus on it in July or August. You're kind of focusing pretty much year-round.
Yeah, definitely. You're always looking. What I usually do is start looking at bowl games, because there's a lot of people that follow everything throughout the year. But I like to start looking at bowl games, seeing who everybody's talking about, and just trying to pick up on what rookies and who I think that they would go to, and just kind of their skill sets.
In terms of regularly drafting a rookie player for your Dynasty team, where do you need to be cautious, and can you take some risk in terms of just generalized positions?
Well, running back, of course, is always king. But here we're getting the snake bit already by Trent Richardson with his knee scope. There gets to be a lot of panic. I typically, if like the premier number one guy, if I'm in a Dynasty draft, I'd probably be looking in the second round to start looking at the top one or two players. And usually the top 3 or 4 or 5 guys, like your RG3, your Andrew Luck kind of guys, more in the 5th or 6th round, and then it just kind of spreads itself out.
Let's talk about some rookies in particular this year. I know you've obviously had some on the website at FantasyAlarm.com, but I might throw a few others in there for you as well. Running backs, obviously you talk about Trent Richardson. He is going to be back by the beginning from what I'm hearing. I take it, though, if you can get Trent Richardson early in a Dynasty league, that's a pick you probably got to make.
Yes, definitely. I actually, in a keeper league, I have the first pick overall. My family is from Ohio, so I'm patiently waiting for 2 weeks to make sure that he looks like he's coming out just fine. But the initial reports are it's just a little scope that should be taken care of.
What about a guy like David Wilson with the Giants?
David Wilson is a very intriguing guy. He's very intriguing for one point. I have Ahmad Bradshaw in 1 week, and I have Wilson in the other. Wilson is he is a speed guy. He is great in space, but you got to get him in space, and he is one of those guys that either you have to have a very strong offensive line, and right now the Giants don't really have that strong of an offensive line, but if they just use him in little wheel routes, they put him in motion, I think he's going to be fine. I mean, with their injuries to tight end, I don't think they can afford to just throw to the wide receivers. I think in Dynasty, he's a stronger play. In a redraft, he's going to produce maybe like a number 3 or a number 4 running back for you. I like his skill set. I think he'll get better as Bradshaw breaks down, because he always seems to find a way.
Well, I was going to say, with basically the Giants making a trade, having Brandon Jacobs be replaced by David Wilson, does that add or decrease to Ahmad Bradshaw's value, or not affect it one bit?
I think it takes him down a little bit, because they do a lot of the same things. I mean, Bradshaw is not a solid goal line guy, and obviously Wilson is not either. So he's still going to get, it's going to be a benefit, because Bradshaw's not going to come off the field when he would last year for Brandon Jacob type plays, but his kind of plays that he excels at, David Wilson's going to be there as well. I really see it more of like I'm going to say a 65-35, or maybe even close to a 60-40 kind of split, and then it'll go from there. I do think Wilson will have benefits like on a bye week or something like that. I just wouldn't suggest him being a top 2 or honestly a top 3 running back on your team. If you get him at 4, your 4th or your 5th guy, I think he's a good plug-and-play, during bye weeks and whatnot.
And a guy that you wrote about on your website that, kind of raises some eyebrows and could be a really interesting, a deep pick to me, maybe in some dynasty leagues, would be Ronnie Hillman of the Denver Broncos. Obviously, Willis McGahee is going to probably be that first string back, but Willis McGahee is not known for, when you look up the words clean health in the dictionary, I don't think Willis McGahee's picture is always popped out there either.
No, he isn't. And, the one thing that really gives Hillman an added plus is when I went back and looked at Hillman, he reminds me a whole heck of a lot of Joseph Adai. And Joseph Adai, nice, quick, knows what to do in space. And Hillman right now isn't great in pass protection, but McGahee is more of a plotter at this point. He's not explosive. He'll take the ball and he'll fall forward, but he doesn't have solid hands. And Peyton likes to have that option. If the play's breaking down and people aren't getting open downfield, he likes a little outlet. And Hillman can't be that outlet guy. So I listen a lot to Cecil Lammey, who I'm a football guy, and he also does some things for ESPN in Denver. And he is sky high on this guy. And from what I've seen in the film, I like him too. He's a guy, I think, in a dynasty league, in a rookie draft, I just got him at the 1.8. And he's somebody that like maybe not be all that productive for maybe like the first 2 or 3 months. But I think eventually he's going to take more and more of the carries away.
If people have never played fantasy football other than, obviously just playing that year-to-year type of game that I think everybody kind of started in, what's the difference between a dynasty and a keeper league for just the, average Joe that hasn't really played yet but wants to expound, looking maybe deeper than just one season?
Sure. Well, it's fun because there's a little bit of a controversy in the whole dynasty. To me, dynasty means you draft them, you trade for them, whatever, they are yours until you decide that you're going to get rid of them. And they are your players for however you so choose. Keeper, there are many types of keeper leagues that you can keep one person, you can keep 3, you can keep 12, you can keep 18, whatever you want to say, but there is definite turnover that has to happen every year. And that's what the difference is. I enjoy Dynasty more because not only do I have to focus on what's happening in 2012, but I have to also focus on what's going to happen in 2015. And there's a lot of people that will say, only do 2 or 3 years ahead of time. Don't try to predict any further than that. You get a guy like Kenny Britt coming out, great, has the skills, everything else. Now he's, mouthing off to his team because they're fine because he doesn't show up for rehab and, has so many injury-plagued years. But it's, to me, it's the difference between playing a game of checkers or playing a game of chess. Redraft is very luck-based. You can get somebody who doesn't really know what the heck they're doing. You can get a pretty good darn team. But someone in Dynasty, into a lesser extent in keepers, the keeper league is going to have to do a lot more work and have to be a lot, I don't want to say smarter, but has done a lot more research to know what the heck they're doing. And I like to take the luck factor out of it. I would call a redraft about a 50-50 shot with actual, football knowledge and luck, and I would call Dynasty more like 75% football knowledge and 25% luck.
How much at this point do you pay attention to, because I'm assuming in most Dynasty leagues, obviously you've done your rookie drafts, but in most of them, but how much do you really kind of pay attention, not just to the preseason, but to maybe the second and third quarter of the preseason? games?
I usually watch the first half during the first full week of the preseason, and then I watch the first 3 quarters, typically the third and fourth games. And, well, I shouldn't say the fourth games, because the fourth games usually, you don't know what you're going to get. I usually watch about a half of that. But so the second and third game, I watch 3 quarters. And I like to see those guys that are the number 2s and sometimes the number 3s. But then after that, you're going to get, some preseason guys that are going to explode and you're not going to hear much from. But there's always some tells. I mean, you get a guy like Victor Cruz who blew up a couple years ago in the preseason, got hurt, didn't play, and then this past year, he exploded. I don't think he's going to do what he did last year, but he is a very important part of the Giants' offense now.
If you needed to draft a rookie, and I'll let you pick how many, 2, 3, 0, whatever. If you need to draft a rookie that you could have impact a team this year, whether you're playing Dynasty or whether you're playing just straight old year-to-year fantasy football, who are your top guys?
Well, Trent Richardson is the new scope. If that turns out to be something small, which I think right now he hasn't undergone the surgery, so it's pretty close to call. I think he will have some bump benefit during the year because, honestly, Cleveland doesn't have much offense. Regardless, Doug Martin is a guy that I really like. I think he's going to be the real deal with Greg Schiano in Tampa. I'm going to say Hillman is a little bit more long-term. Unfortunately, Blackman and Michael Floyd are not really draftable. Maybe as number 5s in a redraft kind of league. I might take a chance on Alshon Jeffrey and Kendall Wright in a redraft, and probably as like number 3 or number 4 receivers. RG3 and Andrew Luck, I think, will both be solid number 2 quarterbacks for you if you're going to kind of do a committee situation that, like Ben Roethlisberger, Jay Cutler are going later in drafts. Matt Schaub is another one who's going later in drafts. If you want to be one of those people that waits till towards the end before you get your first quarterback, then you're going to go ahead and pick up one of these rookie quarterbacks as well to go along with them.
This may sound like a common sense question in closing. As always, appreciate your time. I look forward to doing it again much, much more in the future, and we'll continue to read you at fantasyalarm.com. Well, I'll tell you, Andy, I think anything that can, and I think we all love football, obviously, because otherwise we wouldn't play fantasy football, and I think we all love fantasy football, but anything that we can keep it different, like you guys do with fantasyalarm.com, and you talk about being the Dynasty and rookie guy that you are for the website, and just anything to keep it different, I think is good, and it makes it more fun, I think.
No, definitely, and the whole thing is it's okay to walk away from it sometimes too. And I'm not saying walk away from the season or whatever else, but I love the game of football.
Right.
And one of the things that I do, I like to go on Friday night and go watch some high school football. I got my best friend, 2 of his sons, both play. One plays junior high, one plays high school, and I love going to that. If you love football, you don't just have to go with the pro. I mean, definitely go to a college game. You got a local college, even if it is 1A or whatever else. If you enjoy the game, to me, sometimes you just get too caught up in hero worship. Go back and enjoy the game for the game. That's kind of what my thing is now.
Amen. I totally agree with you, Andy. Well, I hope this was a good experience for you. We'll do it again soon, and as always, we'll check out fantasyalarm.com for all our Dynasty and rookie needs.
Bob, thank you very much for having me on. You have yourself a great day.